love it. I love it. I love it. Look at this. This is the greatest thing I've ever seen.
Hey, I'm not surprised.
Hey, what's poppin', my bros? What's good? Another full card UFC breakdown to make. This main event's gonna be Alexa Grasso taking on Vivi Araujo, and this main event's a good main event. You know, same as the last main event, but the casuals are gonna sleep on these types of cards. Now, looking at the bets I made on the last card, my predictions weren't too good, but the bets were good. And that's what I really care about. So yeah, 2 for 2 on the last card. And that's pretty much what every gambler's trying to do, you know. You can make predictions, but it's really our bets. You know, when the money's on the line, that's where we care, right? And my bets, I smashed those. The predictions though, not too good. Now, before we get into this card, there's only 2 MoneyCity comments from the last card, and the first one's going to be Mike Davis, Randy Brown, Costa and Guido, inside the distance. That's money. And the other MoneyCity comment's going to be from Daniel Rocker, Alir Latifi decision, Silva, Yan. Hey, that's money. That one is money. Alright, let's proceed into making predictions, breaking down the fights, making picks. Let's go. Alright, first matchup on this card, we've got Mike Jackson taking on Pete Rodriguez. Now guys, let's start by saying Mike Jackson shouldn't really be in the UFC. And maybe that's harsh to say, but then again, it is the truth. And it's kind of funny because Mike Jackson's octagon name, The Truth. Now, Jackson does have a win over Dean Barry in his last fight, but not really legitimate, you know, disqualification. On the flip side, Pete Rodriguez got absolutely dusted by Jack Della Maddalena in his UFC debut. My prediction with this matchup's probably going to be similar to most people's predictions. I'm going to take Pete Rodriguez with a round 1 stoppage. And if the round 1 stoppage doesn't come, you know, it really should happen in round 2. But I fully expect Pete Rodriguez to win this matchup, seeing as Pete Rodriguez is actually a fighter and Mike Jackson isn't. You know what I'm saying? Round 1 stoppage, round 2 stoppage. Pete Rodriguez, that's my pick. DJ Vergara taking on Tatsuro Taira. Low-key, very decent matchup. I bet on Tatsuro Taira in his UFC debut. The calf kicks are money. The jiu-jitsu works pretty good. And you get to see that in the UFC debut. You know, a pretty good addition to the UFC. Now, on the flip side, CJ Vergara may not be technically as gifted as Taira. But man, you look at CJ, the guy's a dog. You know what I'm saying? Masvidal vibes. And some people might know this, but when CJ was in high school, he actually had a fight club. And his parents found out and they said, look, no more fighting. And that's when CJ said, look, nah, you put me in a gym or I'm going to keep fighting. And then he gets put in a gym. You know what I'm saying? The guy's a dog. Masvidal vibes. Now, guys, if you go back and watch Tatsuro Taira's UFC debut, you may notice that he gets a little bit fatigued. Right, he kind of slows down a little bit outside of round 1, which you don't want to do that against CJ Vergara. You slow down against the dog's gonna get ya. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, Tatsuro Taira probably looks like the better fighter early in the fight, but if he slows down, that's where the underdog CJ, he's gonna start finding some success with the boxing combinations. It's a good fight. My advice is going to be CJ Vergara is a live underdog. He's not technically better. He's just a dog, right? A live underdog. I'm going to side with CJ in this matchup. Alright, moving into a matchup between Piera Rodriguez taking on Sam Hughes. Let's start by saying all respect to Sam Hughes. I think she's really evolved in her most recent fights. You know, not the greatest fighter you've ever seen, but she's really finding her style. Her style seems to be, you know, I'm going to take damage, especially early in the matchup, but she kind of Homer Simpsons her way into the fight. You know, starts to break the opponent, starts to show the warrior spirit. That's the style of Sam Hughes. You look at her grappling work against Elise Reed. You know, this is a prime example of breaking down the opponent. She's not technically better than Elise, at least not in the striking, but that didn't really matter. She bullied her. Better cardio, better wrestling, more will to win the matchup. Now looking at the flip side, Piera Rodriguez. This girl got a contract on the Contender Series. Then she beat up Only Toes girl, Kay Hansen, in her UFC debut. Now if she's going to beat Sam Hughes, she does have to avoid wilting. She has to avoid being taken to the mat, avoid fatiguing. And a big part of avoiding the fatigue is going to be to fight your fight. Now, Piera's fight's not going to be against the fence. It's not going to be on the mat. It's going to be in the kickboxing. You put the gun to my head, guys, and I gotta predict this one. I'm going to say this one's mainly a kickboxing matchup, and because of that, I'm going to side with Piera Rodriguez to win this matchup. If Sam Hughes can get her to the mat, get her to the fence, you know, mainly fight her fight, all the credit. But I think it's probably going to be mainly a kickboxing matchup. So yeah, I'll take Piera. Alright, moving into a matchup between who we got. Joanderson Brito taking on Lucas Alexander. Who is Lucas Alexander? 7-2 as a professional. Now guys, Lucas Alexander shouldn't beat Joanderson Brito. I've watched a couple of Alexander's fights. Nowhere near the level of Joanderson Brito. I'm not saying Brito's like a perfect fighter, because he's not. You can see that he's reckless, you know, overly aggressive. But this time round, you know, the over-aggression's probably a positive rather than a negative. Brito's grappling ability, another big positive with this matchup. I'd really expect either a TKO or a submission in round one. You know, maybe Lucas could survive a round, but I kind of doubt it. I'm going to side with an early stoppage for Joanderson Brito. I'd be extremely shocked if Lucas won this matchup. You know, this matchup kind of seems like a mismatch. So I'm going to take Joanderson Brito, round one stoppage, submission, TKO, whatever it's going to be. That's my prediction. Alright, moving into a matchup between Nick Maximov taking on Jacob Malkoun. Man, this one's a difficult matchup. Arguably a coin toss, you know, 50-50. Maximov is from that Nick and Nate Diaz gang, you know, smokes weed, rolls on the mat, primarily a jiu-jitsu player. Although you wouldn't really guess that, looking at his last matchup, you know, dusted. Absolutely dusted. Beautiful anaconda choke from Petrosky. On the flip side, you've got a guy that trains with Robert Whittaker, primarily a wrestler, Jacob Malnamugomedov. You know what I'm saying? Relentless. Really good wrestling. So grappler versus grappler, jiu-jitsu versus wrestling. I'd advise the underdog as the better play with this matchup. My prediction with this matchup is going to be Jacob Malkoun. Obviously, you've got to be aware of the jiu-jitsu attacks, right? But they're both grapplers. This is a coin toss. I'm going to take the underdog, or advise the underdog. But yeah, I really see this one as 50-50. You know, jiu-jitsu versus wrestling. What one do you like a little bit more? For me, I like Jacob Malkoun. Moving into a matchup between Assuncao taking on Victor Henry. Now guys, Assuncao's 40 years old, right? A 40-year-old bantamweight, massive red flag. Now has Raphael Assuncao fought against better competition than Victor? Yes, he has. Does Assuncao have really, really good jiu-jitsu? Yes, he does. Can Assuncao win this matchup? He could, but the chances... You know, what's the chance? The chances aren't as good as what they would have been, say, 5 years ago. He's 40 years old. I give him a round one stoppage to win this fight. If he doesn't find a round one stoppage, he probably shows his age. You know, similar to Guido Canetti, right? He gets a round one stoppage. That's probably his only chance. Now, speaking about Victor, this guy had a really, really excellent UFC debut against Raoni Barcelos. He found a lot of success in this matchup, mainly because he's never a stationary target. If Victor Henry doesn't get stopped in round one, he's probably going to dominate outside of round one, assuming Assuncao's going to slow down, trying to keep up with the pace that Victor's going to set. So purely for those reasons, you know, the reasons that Assuncao's 40, and if he doesn't get a round one stoppage, he's not going to be able to maintain the same type of pace. For those reasons, I'm going to pick Victor Henry to win this matchup. It's very difficult to try to pick a 40-year-old bantamweight. I'm going to pick Victor to win this matchup. Alright, this is supposed to be the smoke break, but I'm still on a tolerance break with weed. It's got to be like 2 weeks now, or over 2 weeks. The first week, trying to go without weed, very difficult. But the second week, it gets easier. So if you're trying to, you know, have a tolerance break, just know the first week, it's always going to be most difficult. Now, I'm probably going to break my tolerance break on UFC 280. You know, seems like a good time to break the tolerance break, you know. One thing that's really helped me, like, keep my mind occupied, you gotta find a hobby, right? When you break from smoking weed, you gotta find a hobby. And believe it or not, my new hobby I've been practicing freestyles. I'm not even gonna lie. You know, I've been doing it. I've been trying to make some freestyles. I'm a big fan of hip hop, rap. You know, I remember being like 8 years old in the playground listening to Eminem. You know, I've been a big fan of hip hop my whole life. So that's like my new hobby. You know, take this word, try to find another word that rhymes. You know, then move on to that line. Now try to find a new word that rhymes. You know, it's a fun thing. And I kind of see how like people like to go to the studio, you know, and just bullshit, just make up rhymes, make up freestyles. Then I was kind of thinking like, okay, if I'm gonna do freestyles, I should probably freestyle about the fighters. You know what I'm saying? So let me know, guys, do you want to see videos like predictions where I do it freestyle? You know, obviously my freestyles ain't good. You know, I'm trash. I've been doing it for like 4 days. You know, it's not good, but it has helped me like stay off weed, you know, keep my mind occupied. And my mind just keeps going over and over like, oh, that's a new word that can rhyme with that word. You know, it's a fun thing. And for anyone that actually knows what they're doing like with freestyles, I would love to learn. You know, if you could bless me with your time, I would love to learn. But yeah, most of the time, like, I mean, not most of the time, 100% of the time, you're rhyming words and it just sounds silly. It sounds ridiculous. But yeah, let me know, like, do you want to see videos where I'll make a fight prediction but in a freestyle? I don't think anyone's done that. Has anyone done that? I don't think so. You know, I was driving the other day and I was like, anything I see, I'm just going to try rhyme it. You know, stopping at the zebra crossing, see that girl glossing, but her teeth may need flossing. You know, just dumb shit. Alright, main card breakdown, let's go. Alright, moving into the next matchup, we've got Martinez taking on Brandon Davis. Quite a low level matchup. I've never really been a fan of Brandon Davis. You know, kinda scrappy, kinda tough. His jiu-jitsu's okay, but I wouldn't really say his ability's elite. I did bet against Brandon Davis with Dinar Bakgarel, which is easily one of the easiest bets I'm ever going to make. You know, a big discrepancy with the stand-up in that matchup, and it really showed quite early in the fight. Now, looking at Martinez on the flip side, this guy's pretty green. You know, what is his potential ability in the UFC? Kind of difficult to say at this point. I will say, though, the boxing of Martinez pretty sharp, pretty quick. You know, really rips to the body nicely. And even though he was outclassed by Ronnie Lawrence, you look at the way he finished the fight, you know, knocking Ronnie to the mat. He's not bad. But yeah, gun to my head with this matchup, I'm going to side with Martinez. Maybe a bit quicker, maybe hits harder, younger, better striking defense. And like I say, the boxing's pretty good. So yeah, this time round, I'm going to side with Martinez. I did go against him with the Ronnie Lawrence matchup. But now you've got Brandon Davis. I don't really rate Brandon Davis. So my pick, I'm going to side with Martinez to win this matchup. Moving into a matchup between Misha Cirkunov taking on Alonzo Menifield. Quite an interesting matchup. Now let's start by saying Misha Cirkunov has really good jiu-jitsu. A black belt in BJJ. So the advantage in the grappling is there. Now let's counteract that advantage by saying Alonzo Menifield has way more power in the stand-up. Way more dangerous in the striking. Now we can also mention that Misha Cirkunov kinda got a dusty chin, right? The glass jaw. You've only got to look at Misha Cirkunov's jaw and it kinda thinks about collapsing to dust. You know what I'm saying? Dusty jaw, glass jaw. Now going back to Alonzo Menifield, you have to acknowledge this guy has a lot of muscle, right? And we know when you hold a lot of muscle on the frame, it requires a lot of oxygen. So we do know that Alonzo has a lot of power. But the consequences of being overly powerful, you're kind of fatigued. You know, you throw too many bombs, you're going to fatigue. So let's revisit all of that information. Misha has better jiu-jitsu. Misha has a glass jaw. Alonzo has better striking, although he might fatigue. You put the M16 to the dome, COD 4. I'm going Alonzo Menifield, round 1. Complete dusteration. Let's go. Moving into a matchup between Dusko Todorovic taking on Jordan Wright. Now, shout out to Catherine Southgate, who did ask me to mention that Dusko kind of looks like the human version of Patrick Starr. I do see it, right? Little simulation glitch there. A couple weeks ago, my boy mentioned that Gregory Rodriguez, just a violent version of Obama. This week we got Dusko Todorovic, human version of Patrick Star. Now guys, Dusko Todorovic does have one weakness, right? The weakness is he doesn't really move his head. The head movement kinda non-existent. Now speaking about what Dusko Todorovic does do well, when he does perform well, if he can get the opponent to the mat, the ground and pound, it's pretty good. It's pretty violent. On the flip side, looking at Jordan Wright, the Beverly Hills Dosser, right? It's not a ninja. Come on, man. This is the Beverly Hills Dosser. You know, what ninja gets dusted like that? Jordan Wright, constantly getting dusted. Now, guys, I will say, if there's anything that Jordan Wright does do well, it's going to be the kicking ability. His kicking ability is pretty good. His chin, dusty. The kicking ability pretty good. Now if Jordan Wright does land a head kick, probably Dusko goes to sleep, right? But if Dusko gets Jordan to the mat, then Jordan's going to go to sleep. It's one of those ones. As always, you put the gun to the head. I'm going to side with Dusko Todorovic, but you know, it's more of a fade on Jordan Wright. Dusko Todorovic is going to be my prediction, not my bet. There's no way I bet this. This is it's Dosser versus Dosser. Who's the bigger Dosser? I think it's Jordan Wright. My prediction's going to be Dusko Todorovic. You've got to move the head. Don't get kicked in the head. And get Jordan to the mat. Should win the matchup. Alright, next matchup we've got Askarov taking on Brandon Raw Dog Royval. A big respect to Brandon with that octagon name. Big respect. So let's highlight the ability of both fighters. Askar is a brilliant wrestler. The striking's not like super good, right? It's not bad. But the most dangerous part of Askarov is going to be the wrestling. It's going to be the ability to wrestle the opponent. Now guys, when you look at the ability of Brandon Royval, it doesn't seem to be as black and white as Askarov. When you look at Brandon Royval, you see high output, you see brilliant cardio, you see kind of slick jiu-jitsu. You know, a funky style, unorthodox footwork, unorthodox attacks, both on the mat and on the feet. You could kind of say that Brandon Royval's chin's a little bit dusty. I would say that. His striking defense at times is pretty bad, but that's probably because he's fighting at like 100 miles an hour. You know, Brandon Royval's the type of fighter that's just trying to force action. You know, 100 miles an hour, force action. I took Taira as like a big underdog against Askar, and Brandon Royval did beat Taira France. So if you're going to play like the MMA maths, maybe you're going to pick Brandon Royval. But for me guys, I'm going to side with the Russian on this matchup. I think you need a certain level of composure to beat Askarov. And I don't really see the composure in Brandon's game. Like I said, the guy's fighting like 100 miles an hour. And that might be effective in some matchups, but maybe not in this matchup. So for me, I'm going to side with the wrestler, the Russian, Askarov, to win this matchup. Moving into a matchup between Jonathan Martinez taking on Cub Swanson. Now, Cub is a legend. He's a veteran. A fighter that fully understands the game, right? Now, you could say that Cub's done more than Jonathan Martinez, which is true. He's fought better competition. And he's looked pretty good recently, you know. Dusted Darren Elkins, dusted Pineda. Cub's looking really good recently. Now the opponent, Jonathan Martinez, I'm a big fan of this guy. The kicking ability that Jonathan Martinez has, it's beautiful. You know, the guy's a technician. You know what I'm saying? Doesn't really want to brawl. Rather keep the fight looking clean. You know, more like a chess match. Technical strikers want to do that. And that's what Jonathan Martinez is looking to do every matchup. Now, Davy Grant was able to sleep Jonathan Martinez, although Davy Grant is quite unorthodox, right, which makes him dangerous. Alejandro Perez was able to drop Jonathan Martinez at the end of round 1. So it is clear to see that you can catch Jonathan Martinez. You got to catch him. But here's going to be the problem with this matchup. What's the chances that Cub Swanson at 38 years old is going to find the chin of Jonathan Martinez, and he's moving down a weight class, you know, moving down to bantamweight. So yeah, for me, I'm going to side with Dragon Martinez. I think Cub is good, man. I took him against Pineda. I took him against Kron Gracie. Both of these times an underdog. But if you look at Cub Swanson, the last time he fought a kicker, yeah, Chekadze, you know, shut down my liver real quick. I'm not saying that Jonathan Martinez is like the same kicker as Chekadze, but it's certainly the same game. Right, he's a kicker. So for me, I've got to side with Jonathan Martinez at bantamweight against a 38-year-old Cub Swanson. That's got to be my pick. Moving into the main event, we've got Alexa Grasso taking on Vivi Araujo. This is a good main event, just like Dern versus Yan. But you know, the casuals are going to sleep on these main events. They'll be here for UFC 280. Now, both Alexa Grasso and Vivi Araujo are very, very good strikers. Right, Alexa Grasso's boxing, super good. You look at Vivi, right, very explosive. Although that style is kind of dangerous. If she doesn't stop Alexa round 1, round 2, being that explosive, you kind of fatigue. I would say that Alexa's style is way more suited to a 25-minute matchup, whereas Vivian's style is way more suited to a 15-minute matchup. You know, I kind of think that when the matchup gets to those championship rounds, how is Vivi Araujo gonna look? You know, if she gasses in a 15-minute matchup, round 4, round 5, it's probably gonna look bad. I think Vivi maybe starts well round 1, round 2, but like I said, you know, it's more suited, her style's more suited to a 15-minute matchup. So purely for those reasons, guys, I am gonna side with Alexa Grasso in this main event. Now, the last main event, I took the underdog, right? Women's mixed martial arts, I took the underdog, Yan. This time round, I'm quite sure the favourite is going to be the winner in this main event. You know, maybe I'm a little bit biased with Alexa Grasso. Always been a big fan, mainly because her boxing ability is pretty good. You know, the jab, the 1-2. I've always been a big fan. So for me, I'm going to side with Alexa Grasso. I think she's a better boxer. I think she's more suited to a 25-minute matchup. I am a fan of Vivi too. You know, she's got the explosive style, but like I said, in a 15-minute matchup, I've seen her gas. And now she's got to go toe-to-toe with a boxer who's a better boxer. And it's a 25-minute matchup. My pick, Alexa Grasso. Like I said, maybe Vivi starts well round 1, round 2. But as the fight ticks on, as you've got like an extra 15 minutes to go, I just see Alexa growing into the matchup. I'm taking the Mexican Alexa Grasso with the sharp boxing, the sharp jab, the sharp 1-2. That's got to be my pick. As always, guys, make sure you drop down your main event, your co-main event, your underdogs, your parlays, MoneyCity Plays, all of that good stuff. Keep your eyes to the sky, never glued to your shoes. Mac Miller. Alright, peace.